You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
And we are back, hopefully with all those little technical problems behind us. I am Rhino. We're getting into round 5 here of the ETS Weekly. We've got a pair of players here that are 3-1, so they're battling to stay alive. Let's introduce the decks here and the players, Calimdir.
Yeah, so we have Unearthly versus Bradykin. Unearthly playing his signature Rhino plate deck, which he's known for. Plays it in just about every constructed event that we have. And Bradykin, mostly known for Voda Combo, bringing Chalice control to this tournament, like we saw last round. But his take is a little bit different. You want to talk about some of the changes he's made?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go too in-depth here, but I guess the big difference here is that this one's a bit lower to the ground, if there is such a thing. You know, we saw the other one playing, the other versions playing more Parliaments or Channel the Tempest or whatever. This one's opting to just, full 4 Islands choice, stuff like that. The top end is basically just 1 Leave a Witness, but 2 Mareson's Disciple are in here in the middle of the deck. So just not quite as much top end as we've seen some other ones. But this game is now underway, and we'll see how this streamlined approach by Bradykin pans out in this fully premium battle. Both players rocking fully premium decks.
Yeah, both players playing premium decks. Unearthly mulligans a hand that just had too much depleted power into sort of threat light hand, but he's getting the old primal sigil, the old primal influence off of the seal there. But that's because he has the double fire and the double justice already in hand for this Deforged plate.
Yeah. All right. And crucially here, the Paladin Oathbook, while awesomely making this a 4/4, puts it into Island's Choice range. Island's Choice showing off where it's quite a bit better than Vanquish, as it can immediately kill this threat once it becomes large. So really, really nice stuff there for Bradykin, getting to take out Rakano's first large threat and hoping to continue to do so.
Yeah, and Bradykin actually running 4 copies of Island's Choice and no copies of Vanquish in the main board.
Yeah, I love that. Island's Choice alongside Wisdom of the Elders gives you a lot of choices every time you hold up power, especially when you also have Desert Marshal to hold up and post-board Scorpion Wasp can come in. And then Unearthly's got to constantly have a guessing game of what is my opponent holding up. And that's, I mean, at least you're Rakano and you just know I have to attack anyways, but it still is going to make them hesitate.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of ambush units and fast spells, especially all like at similar powers. It makes for a lot of interesting decisions for both players.
Unearthly opting to not get too cute and block plus Finest Hour there. Probably just wants to use Finest Hour as read and not care about killing a 2/1.
Yeah, I think it's just a little unnecessary. 2 damage is really inconsequential in this matchup from the side of Bradykin at least.
Yeah, the bigger point would just be to kill a 2 attack unit to shut down Chalice. But again, that's not what you care about as Rakano here. You're just trying to kill your opponent.
And I think playing the hammer here over the plate is the right play because he just wants to get the war cries in. And if the Silverwing Familiar gets removed, you still have the plates. You got the war cry down, and it's the damage is comparable. And the endurance is the endurance and the overwhelm are not relevant on a flyer with life.
Yeah. It's also just a better plan, as you said, for the long game. Not only getting those war cries, but you're saving to give this bird or another unit later on if this bird gets dealt with evasion. Like Overwhelm is still another form of way to push through damage, especially if a Permafrost shows up. But now Bradykin does nothing on 6 power here, and Unearthly's like, how do I win this game but not attack, right? So he's like, okay, Deforged plate attack, and Bradykin is going to be delighted by this.
I was gonna say, I was thinking about Permafrost for Deforged plate, but Bradykin is actually playing 0 copies of Permafrost in his 90, I believe.
I mean, I can respect that, but speaking of respect, Bradykin, by holding up all those ambush and fast spells we were talking about, gets to pop the Aegis on this 10/10 and Island's Choice it away. Again, Island's Choice being fast means you can kill those units with weapons on them before they even get to hit you, and that means Bradykin's sitting pretty here at 21 health.
Yeah, so Unearthly didn't have a lot of options there. He tried to go for the winning play, just hoping that Bradykin didn't have it, but he was careful about it, and he held up, the right stuff and didn't overcommit to anything. And now Unearthly is just in this position where he's got nothing, absolutely nothing against a Chalice deck that has Chalice, has units, and it's just going to be going full throttle for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and it looks like Bradykin's looking to turn the pressure. Nope, opts to get the Amber Acolyte down instead of playing 2 Owls here. He could have just slammed 2 4/4 flyers here and closed with that, but instead just opting to get as many units down, draw as many cards as possible, and still at least have some pressure here with these 4/3s and 3/3s that are on the ground. Still has a clock.
I mean, potentially Unearthly could have something like a Silverwing Familiar and like a giant plate off of that hammer that he doesn't know about. So I think just trying to draw into answers is a fair play. It's the safe play.
Yeah, especially because he already had this 4/3 and 3/3. I have enough pressure. Let's dig for answers, and
Unearthly but that's not the case. Yeah, we see that Unearthly, in fact, just has Finest Hours and Vanquish. Neither of those are plates or birds. Ooh, if he had a unit that wouldn't be terrible. That's for sure.
Yeah, instead he does not, and Bradykin's just drawing lots of cards, going to take Unearthly to at least 1 health here. Maybe Unearthly will decide to end it in Finest Hour. One of his chooses to not do that, and Bradykin will be like, all right, I'll draw more cards.
Yeah, everybody loves drawing cards, right?
Yeah. That is why you play Chalice. It's not to play a bunch of 1/1s and 2/1s. I can tell you that much. And man, look at those shiny owls.
Yeah, those are some dangerous owls. So yeah, game 1 going to Bradykin here. Unearthly. So how do you feel about the matchup overall, especially going into sideboard now?
Oh, sideboard. I mean, I don't know what. I think Brady gains more than Unearthly sideboards. Unearthly can bring in Protects and Soulfire Drakes, and those are good cards. Like big flyers are a nice way to attack Chalice, but Soulfire Drakes are expensive, and Protect is a nice thing to have. But Bradykin's gaining things like Scorpion Wasp as another really nice ambush removal / fast spell that can deal with large units. Copperhall Bailiff's a nice way to pop Aegis. Lightning Storm can just take care of units early on. So Bradykin's got a lot of answers here, or a lot of options here to improve his removal suite, whereas Unearthly is going to change the threats, but not that much.
Yeah, so we talked about it a little bit off stream. I think Ricano is typically slightly favored versus Chalice, as Chalice usually has trouble with flyers. But Bradykin's version of Chalice, as you said, is a bit lower to the ground, and he's running a ton of interaction, and he's running the Island's Choices, which are super good against Ricano. Typically, people consider Vanquish a little better just because it's faster. Units don't have to be attacking. It can actually deal with Mystic Ascendant and things like that, and Martial Ironthorn. But against Ricano, a deck that just wants to attack all the time to get its war cries going, to get its damage in, it's so good against these weapons.
Oh, yeah, absolutely excellent. And I think we clearly saw that in game 1. Island's Choice was just devastating. They throw a weapon on a unit, now it's finally big enough to die, and it dies. It also crucially can be used almost in a way to counter Finest Hour, right? You Finest Hour one of your Oni Ronins or whatever that are coming in, and now you can Island's Choice that Oni Ronin because it got buffed by. So that interaction can also be a big deal.
Do you get a window? Because I know.
Yes.
Okay. Because if you have a torch and you elect not to torch before a Finest Hour finishes, I think after you pass, I think the combat just happens. And the Finest Hour
I believe there's a window. Maybe I am wrong, but I feel like I've used Island's Choice already to blow that up. But maybe that was just a fever dream.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Still finishing up sideboarding. Now we're about to get in the game.
Yeah, we're about to get in the game. I think Unearthly is still sideboarding. One more thing I wanted to mention is, while Bradykin does have some cards that look good, like Storm and etc., his main board is also just very good. And the question is, what does he actually want to cut? I think like Marison's Disciple is cuttable for the Bailiffs, but you really want the Wasps, right? The Wasps are very good against Ricano. Obviously, Quick Draw doesn't match up great with Wasp. But Rakano is really heavy on flyers, and the big Aegis unit that is really difficult to deal with is a flyer that doesn't have quick draw, and so that's where Wasp is going to come really
If
in
I'm
handy.
Bradykin, the first thing coming out is the Leave a Witness. It's cute, but it's 7 cost. Harsh Rule essentially in this matchup. It's just Harsh Rule already is a little slow for this matchup, so you certainly don't want the 7 cost one. But it's a good point. Like, what are you cutting for these things? You clearly want to bring in Scorpio Wasp. We see it there, Bradykin's hand, but ultimately we're not quite sure what's coming up.
Yeah, I think Stream may have gotten a little view of how Bradykin did it, but I was going through all the deck lists and looking at Unearthly as well, so we'll see. It'll be a surprise for me.
Yep. Meanwhile, Unearthly's got a handful of threats, no weapons, but a protect to protect one of them. The problem is none of them can swing into this Kothon except for the Champion of Glory. And if he's trotting that out here as a 3-1, it could be a problem, especially with Bradykin having the Desert Marshal at the ready.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how big it is, it's just going to get silenced when he tries to attack, so pretty rough for Unearthly. Also, he's in 2-drop city, so his tempo is going to be kind of awkward. He wanted to draw a little more power or draw an extra, draw a 1-drop or something, just to be able to play out more than one threat a turn, play out more than 1/2/2 a turn. But he's just going to be doing that for a while.
And Bradykin using a Combray Healer to make Kothon a 2/6 endurance does mean if Unearthly has a torch or a finest hour, he can still kill it. But Unearthly didn't attack there, so that's a pretty good indicator for Bradykin that there's no shenanigans going on. But he's deciding if it's even worth swinging with the 2/6 here and wisely pass.
And Bradykin making a jab about Unearthly's more practical use of Diplomatic Seal in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so Unearthly just has units. Kind of the opposite issue of last game, where Unearthly had a unit light draw. Here has tons of units, but doesn't have the weapons. This can be a problem you run into with Rakano. It's kind of this delicate balance you're trying to find of having the right ratios. And while your deck build might have the right ratio, the doesn't mean you're going to draw the right ratio.
So a couple interesting things going on here. Bradykin being stuck on 3 power, and Unearthly electing not to play that 2-drop last turn.
Yeah, opting to go with the 1/1 flyer instead of the 2/2. That's what you're referencing here.
No. Last turn he just left 2 power up, right?
Oh,
and then just for protect.
Yeah, maybe his thought process was he doesn't want the 3/3 quick draw endurance is like the unit he already has in play that could wear a weapon if he draws a weapon, and he was hoping to just draw something like Shogun Scepter and just wanted to hold up protect in case Bradykin tried to mess with it instead of just getting down another unit. But yeah, it's a very good point.
Yeah, I think a big part of it was just, what does Rakano Outlaw do on this board? The answer is nothing. So I think maybe he's hoping to play out all these flyers, get harsh ruled or something, and then unload a bunch of outlaws potentially later in the game.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got a great point there where these outlaws are basically nothing. They're almost certainly not going to do anything this game unless Bradykin destroys his own board, and he doesn't have a reason to do that at the moment.
Yeah, he has absolutely no
Kothon
reason
is just doing work.
Yeah, Kothon and this owl are just Unearthly. Does not look like the aggressive deck here at all.
All right, so drawing a torch here for Unearthly means he could swing with this 3/3 and maybe kill something with the torch, but that's not really solving the long-term problems because Bradykin has 2 big units capable of blocking this Champion of Glory forever. So, I mean, he might just have to hold on to this torch and wait to find a weapon in the right spot, but he's going through the options here.
Yeah, with the Wasp and the Desert Marshal in Bradykin's hand, even if Unearthly draws like a Hammer of Might, which is what he wants to see, or, well, really a plate so he can attack through the owl, he's going to be really disappointed if he's tapped out, if his power is all depleted, because he won't be able to torch the Wasp, and he'll just lose the Silverwing Familiar, let alone, besides the fact that he needs to draw both the plate and a power.
Looks like he's just going to opt to kill one of these Kothon before they can activate. It's not going to solve the problem with the other Kothon in play, but Unearthly, knowing if he draws a weapon at some point or whatever is going to want to play that, might not want to hold up this torch.
Yeah, definitely.
So Bradykin drawing an island choice there, not exactly useful when you've already got all these other defensive cards, but means he's going to be staying alive for a very long time. What do you think of this attack, though?
I think it's pretty safe. I think he's just trying to push damage slowly, put Unearthly in a rougher spot. He's got to kill him eventually. I don't think he has. I don't. Okay. Obviously, it's kind of weird in the face of potential Finest Hour.
Well, my biggest problem with it was that your opponent could already just like you're trading your Kothon for just either their 2/2 flyer or their 1/1 flyer.
Yeah.
Like they already had 6 attack in play, and you can't Desert Marshal.
Yeah. So looking back on it, getting rid of a 2/6 for really nothing there.
Yeah,
when
and
you
it looks
have
like
wasted
Bradykin
copy,
didn't.
just not great.
Yeah, Bradykin thought the damage would stay assigned when he removed the buff, but that's not actually how it works. Only Withering Witch works that way by changing base health. So Bradykin thought he was getting a 2-for-1 there by assigning 1 damage to the Silverwing Familiar and 1 damage to the champion, and then the champion by getting silenced would become a 1/1 with 1 damage on it. It's not how it worked.
Withering Witch is the only card that works like that.
So that's what Bradykin is saying in chat now. He's like, wait, why isn't this 1/1 that I silenced dead? But unfortunate there. If he thought that's how it worked, I certainly do like that play a bit more. So
yeah, that makes way more sense. We had a few audio issues in the background, so I missed that. You were very correct on the call out for that attack.
Yeah. So now Unearthly's got, or thought he had a better shot at getting in with these Ricano Outlaws, but of course the Lumen Defender plus the Owl still just kind of giving him a pair of problems. And he's going to just try and get Warcries here and sort of bluff attack. I think Bradykin will call it out, although he doesn't have Island's Choice up here. But yeah, Bradykin's like, all right, I'll match your bluff twice.
Yeah, so I don't think Bradykin's the primary perspective, so you guys can't see his chat, but he typed to stream, feel free to laugh at me, stream, because he knows he messed up.
Yeah. There's some complicated interactions going on in this game, and sometimes you lose track of them.
And Bradykin calls that bluff there.
Yeah.
For Unearthly, just out of options, just trying to get Warcries in, try and maybe bluff Finest Hour with this Protect, and Bradykin is having none of it.
Yeah, as we said, the Ricano Outlaws were effectively dead cards anyway, so hey, you got Warcry 2 out of it, and maybe your opponent doesn't call your bluff there. I like that attack out of Unearthly. But Bradykin kind of just saw through it and dealt with it.
Yeah,
in the meantime, Unearthly doing 2 damage to a 33 health opponent. I don't think Bradykin's too interested in using Wasp here, but maybe he'll bite on it.
Yeah, I think he's okay without it. Especially when potential Silverwing Familiars with weapons are very real. You know, having the Wasp and the Island's Choice like doesn't deal with it now that he's gotten rid of the Desert Marshal out of his hand, so he kind of needs the Wasp to get through the Aegis unit potentially. And yeah, so at this point it looks pretty rough for Unearthly. I mean, it's been looking rough for him all game. Unearthly basically had the hand that was good against, you know, harsh rules and a bunch of removal, not the hand that was good against Combray healers and Desert Marshals and defenders and Kothons.
Yeah, so Bradykin's still trying to find, a Chalice or a card draw to really put this away. In the meantime, they're both just drawing 1 card a turn, and Unearthly could get in there, especially top decking the very, very, very powerful Valkyrie and Enforcer here. It's a 5/5. It takes the 4/4 out of the sky and frees up these flyers. And now Bradykin looks like he wants to use the Wasp and just deal with this Aegis flyer, but Torch is going to foil those plans.
Yeah, Valkyrie Enforcer does a lot here.
Oh, yeah. Like, now I think Unearthly might be the favorite here.
Yeah. I think Bradykin needs to really draw out of this. He can deal with the Valkyrie Enforcer, sure, but then Unearthly. Oh yeah, Protect, right. Yeah, but so for a while there, Unearthly wasn't able to leave up Torch like a few a while back when he was trying to attack with flyers, and the Wasp would have been really rough. But he drew more power. Bradykin blanked for a number of turns, and now Unearthly is sitting here with a swarm of flyers and a protect to back it up. And Bradykin's just on one card in hand. He didn't draw any chalices, and he didn't draw like Harsh Rule or anything.
All right, so Bradykin uses the last card in hand. Island's Choice gets hit by a protect, and now Bradykin needs to find card draw or Harsh Rule. And Unearthly is debating on if he wants to press his luck with that Harsh Rule gambit.
Yeah, so basically the decision here is what are the odds that he draws it, because playing more units out gives him less turns to draw it. Playing less units out makes it so that if you draw it, it's not as bad. But I think if he draws Harsh Rule, he's going to be in a rough spot anyway. So I think playing the Valkyrie Enforcer is the correct choice.
Yeah, I like just upping the air clock here, keeping the pressure going. Even if they find a Harsh Rule, you have a 1/1 flyer. That's not the worst case scenario. Instead, Bradykin finds a bunch of card draw, starts digging, but is taking quite a bit of damage in the skies here in the meantime. These Valkyrie Enforcers back-to-back turns just putting down the pressure that Unearthly was hoping to find.
Yep, and now things have really turned around for Unearthly. Bradykin finding the Harsh Rule, though, with the Chalice.
Yep, that is pretty crucial here. Again, it'll leave one unit in play for Unearthly here, and no units in play for Bradykin, because it doesn't look like he'll be able to activate Chalice and Harsh Rule this turn. Both the power he has in hand right now is still.
Yep. Yeah. Even if he seeks power, he's still going down a power if he plays the seat. So.
Mm-hmm. If he was maximum greed, he could activate Chalice and hope to hit a sigil, but
oh gosh,
then you die.
That'd be a little too. That'd be a little too spicy for me.
Yeah. So expect seek power plus Harsh Rule to come out here, and now Bradykin will just hope to draw any unit or a card draw spell next turn and cards roll.
Yeah, so Bradykin just going to be sitting here with a Chalice and no units on board, so he doesn't actually.
Oh
my goodness!
Man. The sideboard comes out to play for Unearthly. Soulfire Drake coming in and changing this clock real fast.
Yeah, Soulfire Drake was the dream draw for Unearthly. I mean, sure, played pretty good, but splitting your threats quite a bit better.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, even if Bradykin kills, Bradykin looks to be dead here. Even if Bradykin killed the Soulfire Drake here, it could mean the rest of Unearthly's units have charge. But by drawing Jetblade off the top, that's going to present lethal no matter how he uses this Island's Choice. And Unearthly pulls that one out there. Bradykin not finding the tools to remove the units he needs to. Valkyrie Enforcer getting in that early pressure, and the Drake finishing the job means we've got a game 3.
Yeah, Chalice losing the long game to Ricano there just because he took way too long for him to draw his Chalice.
Yeah. We see here, Bradykin actually did keep in Leave a Witness. Looking at the sideboard, also not at maxed on Island's Choice. We were impressed with it, but I guess Bradykin just curve-wise wanted to make room for Scorpion Wasp and thought Island's Choice was the cut. Not sure if that's the right plan to be on, but that's where he's at right now. Though we do see Leave a Witness going and maybe some Lightning Storm. Okay, yep. I see.
So Unearthly, it's hard to think about the entire game as a whole just because it was a really long game, but I feel like Unearthly played that very well to get out of that situation. Like, sure, Bradykin had to draw a lot of power that game, and he had to draw kind of poorly, but Unearthly was very careful with his resources.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. There were spots where he could have used Protect and didn't, and crucially got to keep that 5/5 flyer alive and, recognized when to suicide attack or whatever with his Warcry units, and turning that Valkyrie Enforcer into a 5/5 was a big deal that game. That significantly changed the clock. So excellently done by Unearthly, and because of that, we get a third game.
Yeah, and I like this hand by Unearthly here. It's not the fastest hand ever, but it does have all the influence he needs. It's got a 2-drop. It's got a torch to help push through that Ricano Outlaw, and it's got a reasonable late game. As the game goes on, if you end up just drawing power, that's fine. You've got a Soulfire Drake.
Yeah, and crucially, Unearthly's on the play here. Bradykin's got a nice hand of his own of Lightning Storms, and that would do some work here as well.
Yeah, Lightning Storm would be good. I normally don't love bringing in Lightning Storm against Ricano just because there's so much Warcry and stuff. But I mean, this version, as Ricano does nowadays, has so many X2s.
Yeah.
So in the early stages of the game, which is when you want to draw it, Lightning Storm is very powerful.
Yeah, especially on the draw, Lightning Storm is basically your best way to shut down your Ricano opponent from ever getting Warcries, right? All of their 1 and 2 drops essentially die to it except Champion of Glory. But Champion of Glory doesn't have Warcry, so you can kind of live with it hitting you a few times. It's just damage, not damage plus Warcry. But either way, Bradykin doesn't have a Lightning Storm anyways, and Unearthly is debating on how much threats he wants to trot out here, as Bradykin probably going to draw some cards in response.
Yes, so the question is, how much does Unearthly want to commit into a potential harsh rule? And he wants to go all the way in because Bradykin is still 2 turns away from a potential harsh rule. If Bradykin does play like a Combra healer, sure, it helps a lot, but Unearthly does have the torch to deal with it. And oh wow, torching this Kothon is okay. Well, that's worth talking about right there.
Yeah, this was still a very nice draw for Bradykin. Like getting a Kothon down as a 2/3 that hopefully block, but won't. But he also has Desert Marshal, so he can play crucially 2 spells here. And we'll see what this Marshal ends up silencing. Damage.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Warcries coming up. Unfortunately for Unearthly, I mean, great for Bradykin, obviously, can't get through this board. But Soulfire Drake, very good, like you just mentioned. I think he's gonna have to play. I think he just has to. He got already 1 Desert Marshal out of Bradykin's hand, so I think he just has to go for it. If it gets removed, that's fine. That's great. If it gets Island's Choice or Wasps, that's fine. He's totally okay with that.
Yeah, and crucially here, Bradykin tapped out on power. Bradykin has 0 power up here, so he knows this Soulfire Drake's not going to get any kind of or silence. It's getting in for 5 damage guaranteed, and Bradykin's gotta find. All right, there it is, the Desert Marshal. So that's pretty key here, and not only does it ground this Soulfire Drake, but it also keeps its Entomb from happening.
So now the Silverwing Familiar is actually pretty impactful here, even though it's not doing anything right this moment. It is another flyer. It has Aegis, and I don't think he has any. Unearthly is out of Warcries on top of his deck, correct?
Yeah, I mean he just drew the Silverwing Familiar.
He
had
just
no
drew
Warcries.
Yeah.
He didn't attack with the Oni running last turn, or the Silverwing Familiar would have been a 2/2. But yeah, I agree. Now he's hoping to just get this Familiar out and draw a weapon that turns it into a 2-turn clock. That is his hope here with the Silverwing Familiar. Anytime Bradykin is hoping Wisdom of the Elder finds him more things to do. Lightning Storm can pop an Aegis, but not kill anything here except his own 2/2.
So we're in a kind of similar situation to last game where Bradykin just doesn't have the Chalice established, and Unearthly is slowly grinding it out. Storm, how do you feel about Storm here?
Well, I like this attack because if Unearthly blocks the 5/4, you get the Lightning Storm, and if he doesn't, then you get to trot out your units and still have good blocks for this Oni. So that 2 damage, maybe not super important, but it was more that if Unearthly did make the mistake of blocking there, your Lightning Storm gets to kill something it's not supposed to.
Yeah, it was also just nothing happens. 2 damage.
There's the weapon we're talking about.
Yep.
Hammer
Here
of Might
comes
off
the
the
hammer.
top.
So Silverwing Familiar now has become a very relevant clock, right? We went from a 12-turn clock to a 3-turn clock.
Mm-hmm. And Unearthly opting to even jam with the Oni Ronin now, getting that Warcry 4 on top of the deck and getting 2 more units out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't know exactly what's in Bradykin's hand, but getting an extra Warcry is probably the best he's ever going to get out of that Oni Ronin. Now that he's got some stats on the Silverwing Familiar, he doesn't care about blocking as much because he's gaining a ton of life. And just having less targets for potential Chalice on Bradykin's side is pretty good for Unearthly. But this
Bradykin there kind of whiffing last turn in that he just drew a Temple Scribe into power and drawing more power here. But crucially, the Temple Scribe gained him a life and gave him hopefully 1 extra turn to live. But Unearthly with the torch off the top, he's going to close it out.
That's
here.
it.
Drawing 8 less power than Bradykin that game. But granted, Bradykin's Amber Acolyte's drawing power and stuff is not exactly a free comparison. But whoo-wee, just closing those ones out there.
And so that was a really interesting matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Chalice, it got to the late game in both of the games that it lost, but it just didn't do control things, right? It just was playing a bunch of dirtily early mid-game units. I wonder if how many Chalices he was running. If he went overboard on something like bringing in too many storms and cutting some of the late game, because the list that we saw, it didn't have Channel of Tempest. It was kind of light on a lot of the late game. I wonder if he cut like Waystone Infuser. Did we see that in game 2?
No, we never saw Waystone Infuser, but again, it was only a 2 of, so it's not like too surprising that we didn't see it. And I think just cutting like most of your win cons is kind of the way to go against Rakano, though. Like generally, if you shut down Rakano's early game, don't let them get the ball rolling. Your units in the mid game will be just as good as theirs, unless they top deck good weapons and you somehow don't have removal. So I don't hate Bradykin's plan there. I just think the draws didn't quite cooperate, and Unearthly's did. He played that expertly, metered out his threats correctly, played around Harsh Rule the way you expect to, and just did an excellent job getting every point of damage and getting every ounce of strength out of his threats.
I definitely agree on the front of Unearthly there. I definitely think Unearthly played it well. I do think, though, a lot of people over sideboard against aggro with control decks and end up, feeling like they're doing well in the early game, and then they just don't draw the right answers, or they take out some of their card advantage or whatever. And when you're not playing cards like something like you're slamming a Knucklebones or whatever, slamming a Vera that sort of that closes out the game for you, that like puts you in that dominant position, aggro's going to just keep drawing threats. Like they're not great at that stage in the game, but they're all questions that need to be answered.
Yeah.
And if you don't set up a way to win, you're going to eventually run out of answers.
Yeah, I agree that you've got to keep it, more than just say, that's the problem with Chalice, right? When you don't draw Chalice, what are you doing? And I think Waystone Infuser is a nice way to address that. And yeah, if Bradykin did bring that out, that certainly could have been a mistake. Again, we don't know. Waystone Infuser was only as a 2 of, but still good stuff from both players. And,
that was a great match. And at any point in the game, Bradykin could have drawn Chalice earlier and he would have been fine. So it's just an interesting discussion to have. But I think that's it for the round, right? Or was there another game that went longer?
We will not have any backup matches, but we do have a couple things to say here before we take a quick break and get the final round set up before the top 8 and everything like that. So I just wanted to say that this is all run by the aReNGee Eternal crew, aReNGeeEternal.com. Your number one source for daily articles, ranked tier lists, stock deck lists, tourney info, all things Eternal you can find at aReNGeeEternal.com. There is a new tier list, no new stock list yet, but the aReNGee team's already kind of saying what they think is the good stuff to do out there. And if you don't know yet, aReNGeeEternal.com is a great source for that kind of information. So check that out. Awesome articles, even for new players or experienced players alike. I know Neon just published a new intro guide to Eternal. So if you have any friends that are getting into Eternal, I would definitely recommend pointing them in the direction of that new player's guide. And even if you're experienced, there might be some nuggets of info you didn't quite realize about the client or how certain cards interact in there. So yeah, aReNGeeEternal.com, your number one spot for Eternal content and this awesome tournament series content. And with that, we'll see you in the next round, round 6, the final round before top 8.
See you then. Don't go anywhere.